Welcome in to another episode of My Two Bits Gator Football Podcast. I'm your host Ben, and I'm here with my other host, Mr. Randy. How are we feeling tonight, Randy? How are things settling with you after a few days since this loss? Tell me where your head's at. What's your temperature on Gator football after a tough week one?
B, good afternoon. Man, this is tough because when I look at everything that we were ramping up for, the changes, all the news, the hype, the this, the you just expect a little bit more, right? So my head is still in the vice. It's still stuck. It's still hurting. It's kind of paralyzed there. Um, you know what? It's just tough when you look at the flow of the game. You look at the first half, total yards. You look at the second half, total yards. You look at the opportunities, which we'll get into later, and everything else that transpired. I feel like this is almost like what Jack Miller did in the bowl game earlier this year, right? Last year. He just couldn't get it done. You had the opportunities, and uh, you just had a wonderful opportunity to come out at the beginning of the season and just put a really good number up against, again, a really good Utah team, but they were hurting. They weren't. I I don't necessarily think Utah won this game. I'll just say that we lost it flat out, and that's what's so tough, right? Hindsight's 2020, and or whatever you want to call it, but it's always hard because you go back and you just want some of these things to work out a little differently, and you go back and say, but this could have done this, and that should have done that, and so that's just what's so tough because so much opportunity was absolutely missed. So that's that's my two bits. B, how about you?
I love it. I love it. Do a little plug in the pod. That's
Little
funny.
plug.
Uh, so yeah, I would say I'm more or less on the same page. Say is, and this is going to be a theme that I'll have throughout here. There are actually more things than I thought at first watch that are encouraging. So I watched this game twice. I watched it once live, and then I watched it once, on full replay playback to really go through and kind of dig into film analysis and as best we can without an all 22. I should preface that there are things we're not going to see on the televised cam,
Yeah.
but however, from what I could go back and look at from some of the things I saw, from some of the things that we were doing, I actually have quite a few things that I found encouraging despite the outcome of the game. To your point, I absolutely could not agree more. We lost this game. Utah did not win it. They played well. I'm not taking anything away from their play. We just shot ourselves in the foot over and over and over and over again through play calling, execution, and of course penalties. Oh, we'll get into it all. We're going to talk about all of it. But I think the thing that I want to keep in mind, and I like people who are listening to this, I think should keep in mind, is that there are absolutely things that we saw that are encouraging, despite the overall product not being such, right? But I do think that there's a lot of things that can get better here. The question is, will they? So that's something that we'll have as a theme going throughout. So we talked about this last week a little bit. We always want to open up, let everybody know what we're trying to do, and our agenda for the pod. And this will now be our kind of standard agenda, at least for any week analysis of games. This is kind of how it will go. So we'll go through and talk about our mission and vision here. So we want to provide factual analysis of all things Gator football. That's our mission. Our vision is to have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film. And while we will have opinions, they should always be backed up with some kind of factual analysis to justify themselves. And we want to do an evaluation of strategy and tactics and observation of player personnel decisions on the field, as well as field, execution on the field as well. So for that purpose, we're going to go through a few different segments. So this is something we didn't get to talk about last time on our initial episode, and I'm really excited for it because I think we've got some things to kind of keep this fun. So we have several different sections. So our first section that we're going to open with is called "Oh My," in homage to Mr. Mick Hubert, and it's going to be our exciting plays that we saw. Uh, we wanted to, make note of and really kind of celebrate some successes, right? I think it's important to celebrate successes when you're a fan of a team. You really want to, you want the enjoyable things to come out. Now, obviously, in this game, that they were a little further and far between than I would like. However, there were a couple that I think we're definitely going to call out and have a good time with. Next will be our Chomp segment. So this is our segment where we will discuss the Gator offense and how it performed during the game, our thoughts on what we saw and what we think is good, bad, and needs to improve, and everything else. From there, we'll go to Gator Bait. So we will then, of course, be talking defense with Gator Bait. Same thing as offense, a review there of everything on that side of the football. We'll then go to our visor throw segment. So this was one of my favorites that Randy named, and setting this up. So our visor throw segment is what grinds our gears, right? What are we upset about? What do we need to see change? And what things are we struggling with, right? From there, we will go to hatchlings, which is our recruiting segment, right? Because our baby gators are hatchlings, right? However, I will preface that unless we're only going to talk recruiting if there's been a significant change of some kind in the class, either for the good or the bad or whatever, just major recruiting updates. We're not going to go through and give you how all our recruits are performing in high school and all that stuff. We're not going to that level of detail. Just going to talk about the class as a whole. From there, we go to Pride of the Sunshine, which is going to be our commentary on the culture of the team as a whole. And then we'll talk a little officiating with "Move Back, You Suck," in homage to our lovely chant that I think our band has started to play less, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. And then finally, we will do a wrap up of our overall thoughts on where we are with the team and our next week's opponent, which of course in this case is McNeese State. So from there, let's jump back to the top here and get into a little oh my. And how about you? How about you open us up there, Randy? What you got for your exciting plays?
Yeah, B, for sure. The first thing I'm going to mention right off the bat is I think what everyone in Gator Nation's going to think that I mention, and that's Caleb Douglas Mossing DB, right? The one thing that's I love about Caleb, besides the fact that that's my son's name, and every time Caleb sees Caleb play, he thinks, "Oh, look, that's me, Dad." Is the fact that I saw this kid, a couple years ago on the practice squad fighting, and it's really good to see him get an opportunity like this to make a play like that, for him to basically say, "Hey, you can trust me, throw me the ball," right? Being a young back, like a young receiver like that. So that was great. Um, you know what, Burke? I think Burke was, you know, in the call it the shadows a little bit years past, but came out, had a really good first half. I love the two catches he made, both semi over the head, over the shoulder. So I really enjoyed seeing the activity that he had, the hands that he had. That was a really, especially that second catch was a beauty over the head. So Mertz placed it beautifully, and he just went up, hands out, and just like it was supposed to be there. So I love those two plays. And then outside of that, just the oh my is just in general for his first game as a starter. I'm sure he was nervous, real nervous, but just a quick shout to Mr. Mertz at 70% passing, 71 if you want to round up for the math people out there, and 333 yards. So 70%, 300 yards. If you can average that the rest of the season, that's going to put us in a lot of good situations. So that's what I had for oh my. What about you, B?
Yeah, man. So absolutely, and I think you're spot on with Mertz there. As an overall, I didn't have that on mine though. Yeah, the TD catch for Caleb, man. Love your expression. Love the mossed. Because you're right, man. He just went up there and took that ball away. I don't even think the
He did.
defender knew he caught it, and then he's just one handing it, just standing there in the end zone. Man, I loved it. That was terrific. It was really nice to see, and thank goodness we got a touchdown because geez, for a minute there, it was looking like two straight games with nothing but a field goal. But we'll again address that as we go. This is the good section. We want to be positive, right? So the other thing I have is great route by Ricky early in the second half on that 40-yarder that Mertz hit him on. Now, ball could have been placed a little bit better, right? We could have been a touchdown because he had him smoked, but he flew by that defender on that up and out route. Man, that was fantastic, fantastic. And defender, kind of peeked in the backfield a little bit there, and then Ricky just kind of turned it out, and then was up and gone. And man,
Gone.
that was just an excellent display of how precise his route running is. Right, he is an outstanding route runner, and it's really nice to when you get to see it, full on. Right, I love that we got a replay of it. It was fantastic. Right. So those
Yes.
are actually the only two that I have. Not a lot of overall excitement here, though I will throw an honorable mention out to pretty much any time Trey Wilson touches the ball, wee, unless it's on a punt return. But um, but just in general, man, he was pretty spectacular with the ball. He actually reminds me of Percy a little bit, with the ability he has to just accelerate out of nowhere and just be at top speed seemingly almost instantly. I mean, man, kid can fly. Excited to see him some more. Definitely need to get him some more touches as we go forward. Um,
Agreed.
so yeah, that's all I got there. So we will move it along to the chomp segment here and talk a little offense. So I'll get this one going. I actually
Yeah,
have
man.
maybe a few more points than I normally do. I'm gonna try and keep it a little concise, but I think it's important that we kind of go through um, the good and the bad here, because I do think there was actually a fair amount of good, as I talked before, but then there were also you know some not good. So the first one I have is a little on the negative side, more than a little. Seemingly both sides of the ball, but offense at least early was way, way, way needing too much direction from the sideline. It also wasn't coming very quickly. It seemed like we were very slow to get play calls in on both offense and defense. And it seemed to make us out of sync is the reason that I'm trying to get here. And obviously being in sync on defense is not, as critical depending on the coverages or whatever that you're running. It does matter, of course, but on offense you got to be in sync, right? Timing is everything, especially if you're throwing the ball, which hey, we might have thrown the ball a little bit, right? um, so it's super important that you have that timing, right? That you're in sync there, and we felt very, very out of sync to start that game. That first half in particular was extremely difficult to watch. Again, as I went back and watched it all again, it got a little better, but not in a good way, not enough to make me feel okay about it, right? So my next point I have is on Mertz. Again, as you said in the Oh My segment, he was accurate. He looked good early. I would say as Utah got a little more pressure on him, he had a little decline there. Not a ton though. I wouldn't say as much drop off as I thought, and I love that he was still going through his progressions and checks and everything else.
Hmm.
Pretty regularly, unless he just didn't have time because he was being steamrolled. But again, we'll get there. Um, he really, actually ended up with a very, you know, well played game, high accuracy. The pick was, unfortunate is what I'll call the pick, right? I think he knew he was rushing that throw. And maybe he did, maybe he didn't. That obviously I'm not inside his head, but obviously the throw was rushed because of pressure. It's not necessarily the fault of the quarterback, right? If his O line can't hold a block for 2 seconds, right, or compensate for the extra blocks that they need,
Right.
because Utah kept bringing all this pressure. My goodness, did they bring pressure a lot? Um, but overall, I thought he was excellent. Really, I mean, especially considering that we are still not seeing very high level of route tree in the passing department. Though I will say I like some of the personnel sets better. I'll get into that in a minute. In fact, it's my next point. But I think we're really seeing a quarterback that understands and has a command of this offense and looked good. I mean, he looked good, and that's really nice to see. That's definitely a positive we can take away there. As I've mentioned about the personnel groupings, so for those who don't know, Florida plays, not under Napier anyway, a lot of 12 personnel. 12 personnel meaning two tight ends on the field. Um, we played less of it. I don't think we were in it more than 25-30% of the time. Now I didn't count, so don't hold me to that number. But we were in 11 personnel a lot. I mean, a lot. A lot more than I'm accustomed to seeing us in, which is a good thing if we felt like we were going to be throwing the ball more, right? The thing I would still like to see some 10 personnel from time to time, which is your four receivers and one running back set, for just to let you know what those differences are. But I really was happy to see a lot more 11 personnel. Um, It made sense, like I said, considering how much we were throwing the ball. And for the record, I think it made sense that we were throwing the ball as much as we were, considering how much Utah was. At least putting 7 in the box. We weren't seeing many 6-man fronts there. They did happen sometimes, but not a lot. Then we get to the O-line. Oh boy.
What a
We
line.
talked about this. What O-line? Indeed. What O-line? We talked about this, right? We mentioned that we had some concerns here, and that we thought that there could definitely be some trouble. Now, we didn't have Kingsley, right? We lost our starting center, one of our most, if not our most, I think actually our most experienced player on the line for our team anyway. That hurt. Slaughter snapped the ball pretty well. I can't give him much past that. His blocking was not good. It had a lot of issues. I saw many times where people got beat, and it was, or when he got beat specifically, and it caused the play to get blown up in one way or another. So that's really not good. This has to get a lot better. There's got to be improvement on this piece of it. Last thing I have is the 1 for 13 on third down. So pretty abysmal third down percentage. However, we'll throw this out here. We had 3 third downs that we converted on the field. The conversion was made, and then they got called back for penalty. So now that's 4 for 13 if you take those penalties away. And a lot of them were dumb penalties, right? One of them was the 5 men in the backfield. That's pretty easily correctable. One of them was a pretty bad holding on the right guard there, and his name has just escaped me, but it's our new transfer from Alabama. Thank you, George. Yes. And I'm just going to throw it out there that we could have been better. Mertz also got sacked 2 times on third down, and we didn't convert. So with some better pass protection and fewer penalties, this might be a theme that starts to emerge. With better pass protection, better blocking in general, and fewer penalties, we're pretty easily 5 out of 13, maybe even 6. Now you're getting into some real good numbers as far as those conversion stats go, right? Getting much more near the average of some of the better teams you're going to see out there on offense. So overall, especially when you look at the second half, I was actually encouraged by some of the things I saw. Now, I wasn't encouraged by that. That's an issue, but I don't know how much of that we can hang on Kingsley not being in there and that line not having played a lot together yet. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's not. That's just one that time will tell. We're going to have to get more data on it and kind of see where we go from there, right? We need more games with this setup, with this group, to see how they work. So that's what I got. Where you at on your offensive analysis here?
B, I can't say that I disagree with any of your points. I really can't. I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. Hence why I said what O-line. I get it, man. When you lose someone like Igak, it was tough because coming out of the tunnel, you see him in the boot, and your heart just sinks. You're like, okay, all right, Slaughter, come on, get in there. You know what? You've had a lot of reps. You know what to do. I'm sure you got talked up, and I don't know. Again, he did the best he could, but clearly he was not the center that we needed, not what Graham needed anyway. So that was that. Damian George, I tell you what, for as much of a man child as he is, he takes up a lot of space. Not as much as Big Dez, but he takes up some space. And I tell you what, if he can just for me, the thing with him is just his attitude, man. And I look at his head, I look at his body language, I look at his face, and the different times the camera was on him, and he's just there like, yeah, I'm here. Like, come on, man. That was my main thing on him there. In the first half, I mean, I guess we made up for it in that third quarter, but in the first half, Ricky Pearsall was non-existent.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very true.
And kind of like what we had mentioned before, like, going back to the reference of a plain vanilla passing offense, I was hoping for some Neapolitan. I actually feel like I went in for a gallon of Briars and came out with a half gallon of, I don't know what this is, El Cheapo. That was really tough to see. Again, different third quarter on, but still. Running back production. Man, when you have a two-headed monster like what we have, and again, I'm not going to put all the blame. Actually, let me rephrase that, Gator Nation. I'm not going to put all the pressure and emphasis on the offensive line. But at the end of the day, in SEC football, it's won or lost in the trenches. I'm sorry. It's
Yep.
won or lost in the trenches. And we could not set that tone up front the way we needed to. So that's what was really tough too. Because when you have a two-headed monster like that, and they're coming in there and they have a whopping 34 yards, it's like, are you serious? And we end the day with 13 rushing yards. And the comical thing of it is our longest run of the game was an 11-yard scamper by Mertz. You
Yeah.
know, and I
Yeah.
say scamper, I mean, I'm like, holy smokes, he's running. Wow, okay, he is a dual threat. Just kidding. No, but so, anyways, kind of the head scratching, the head shaking, the frustrations. It was just tough, right? The penalties aside, and this is where, again, going back to culture, right? I'm looking at the penalties. I'm looking at Billy on the sideline when the camera went to him coming back, and it's just like, hmm, I don't know what else to say other than that is coaching.
Yep.
Coaching and preparation, right?
Yep.
And so that's what I feel is tough there because I get it. Utah, tough place to play. I get it. The altitude, almost what, 47, 4,800 feet. No problem. The swamp is 113 feet above sea level. Okay, I get that. I get the noise, but we had such a golden opportunity to go in there and stun them for what it was. And just we couldn't get it done. So those are my two bits on offense, B.
Yeah, man. Some good points there. Really agree with you, and really think that a theme of this is going to be a lot of stuff coming back to coaching, which I'm not pleased to be saying. I'm not happy to be saying it. Right? And I'm not trying to say that it can't be corrected, because the good thing is when it's coaching stuff, theoretically can be coached, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's the good news. Again, the bad news is though, oof, a lot of stuff here, that's not great, and I think we'll get into most of that in visor throw. So let's move on to the defense. You want to start us off there? Talk to me about your thoughts on how the defense looked overall, despite the outcome of the game, because I think this is actually a narrative that I'm interested to hear your take on.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I had mentioned before, I want these guys to play free. I want them to play controlled yet free, disciplined yet free. Know your assignments, right? And then the first play happens. A
Yeah, yeah.
70-yard bomb, right? And but I tell you what, all in all, when you look at the yardage, right? When you look at the yardage, total
Hmm.
yardage, Utah had 270. You
Hmm.
take away that 70-yard bomb, and they're at 200. So you mean to tell me if you have a defense that keeps a team, especially a team that's conference champs 2 years running, and I get it, they didn't have their leader, their star QB, but they had some decent backups in. We're holding them to 200 yards. Oh, I'm saying that's a win all day long, right?
Hmm.
So I'm looking at it from that perspective. You take away that 70-yard bomb, things change. You take away the interception, which again, I agree with you on that one there. Mertz had to throw it a little quick. Ricky didn't get a chance to whip around, came fast, came a little faster than I'm sure he was anticipating. Off the hand, off the shoulder, up in the air, catch, boom, right there in territory. Utah didn't have far to go. And so when
No,
the
like what,
defense
of
was already
12 yards?
right, when the defense is already on its heels like that, it's really, really tough when you get a blow like that. So outside of that, I looking at everything else that happened from a yardage perspective and looking at the total yards gained in the third quarter where we had triple digits and they had a single digit total yards gained. And I look at what happened with us outscoring them in the second half outside of the fact of missed red zone opportunities, which we'll get to,
Hmm.
but promising minus that initial 70-yard bomb. I think they settled down. And outside of that, I thought I would have seen a little bit more speed on the edge. I thought the edges had a lot more to
Hmm.
prove. I
Hmm.
thought there was a little bit left on the table when it came to the blitzing. believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so that's my summation of Gator Bait. That's what the defense looked like to me.
I'm gonna ask you a question before I read my points.
Go.
Just a straight heat check. Is defense better than last year or not? I know it's one game. I understand that. In this one game, is the
It
defense better
feels
than last year?
it feels better to me in the sense of positionally, again, minus that bomb, where guys can
Yep.
be and what they're able to do within the set, within the scheme.
Yep. I totally agree. I'm right there with you.
Oh, okay.
I think it's better. I'm not gonna hot take you. I think it's better. I think it might actually be a lot better. Um, we were close to having a pretty dominant defensive performance here. We missed it by a hair, and most of that happened because of basically things in the first quarter, a couple in the
Yeah.
second, but really, I mean, it was really good in the second half. I mean, really good. I mean, they scored 7 points in the second half at home. That's that's a good defensive performance. And that's
Hmm.
obviously just looking at scoring. There's of course more to it than that, which we'll get into here. But I think when you look at it overall, the defense was a lot better than the score reflected. I think there were things that caused the score to end up being what it was from a defensive standpoint, the 24 points. And I think a lot of it could have changed. We'll get into more of that in visor throw. I've got some points that I'm going to make on that, but I really don't have a lot of things that I can call out here. No real fault with the scheme used. I thought it was pretty good most of the time. Um, pretty decent. We kind of mixed it up. We played a little man. We had some good blitzing. We had a lot of good coverage in the back end as far as receivers go, other than that first play. But everybody else seemed pretty well covered from again what was visible to me on the televised screen. Um, I didn't like the coverage from the safeties and linebackers still in the beginning. Now it got better as things went along, but initially did not love the linebacker and safety coverage. Just looked out of position. Perkins looked lost a couple times, which was shocking to me. I mean, he's usually really good at that star position, and he whiffed on a couple coverages.
Hmm.
Linebackers again, it wasn't that they can't get out and get it done, but they were missing some of their assignments, especially early. That's when we gave up a lot of that yardage to tight end that we did. So however, we didn't give up that much overall, right? It was only 32 yards to tight ends, which I'll talk more about in a second.
Yeah.
I didn't like uh, uh, the I liked the amount of blitzing fine. In fact, I could have even seen a little more. But we
Right.
kept rushing six and not having the coverage to support that in the back end, right? There was always a wide open hole when we brought six. Now, when we brought
Mhm.
five, we were better. So I'd like to see that. Now I know Armstrong's tendency is to bring six guys, right? That's to rush six, as opposed to rushing five most of the time. When he brings a blitz, he brings a blitz. Like he doesn't mess around about it, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but
No.
you gotta have those secondary coverages in place, especially for the 5-6 yard routes that are going to be the easy dump off for the quarterback. That's the one that's got to have the most focus, right? That's the one
Yeah.
that can't miss, and it was missing consistently. Also felt like the pressure was getting there a little slow. Seemed like the timing. So this goes to another point that I was going to make. I hate that we were waiting for the play call for so long. I mentioned this earlier on offense. It was worse on defense.
Hmm.
They were often not even set, not even having their hand in the dirt before the offense was snapping the ball, and Utah wasn't running hurry up most of the time. Like,
Good point.
what are you guys doing? Like, and again, it's not on the players, that's on the coaches, right? That's on the coaches for not getting that play call in fast enough. Now Armstrong's new, he's learning, right? It's something that can be cleaned up. I'm not going to say it's a done deal, but there is definitely a lot of opportunity there to make sure that this gets a lot better and a lot more organized on the defensive side of the ball. Again, in sync, right? We'll be the '90s band here, right? Well, I guess 2000.
Ah,
Sorry, but um, it's got to get it's got to get better, right? It just has to, or I won't make the cheesy bye comment. We'll leave that alone. Um,
Wow. Wow, you
but
went there.
I did. Another thing, this is I would mention for comparison. So we looked at a couple things. So I'll mention that what we're going to do now going forward. We got a lot of really good feedback on keep it or pitch it. So we're going to incorporate that into each show, and we're going to do it as a part of what we're looking for next week's game. So we didn't do that. Obviously, we did it for the whole season. We didn't do that for the Utah game. So we kind of just wanted to call out the points that we would have played keep it or pitch it with if we had done it. So one of them was we gave up 133 out of 220 passing yards to tight ends last year. That was the stat. It was 60.4% of all of Utah's passing production, and over 100 of it went to Kuthi. So the question is, did we improve here, right? We would have played keep it or pitch it. Will we improve here and set some kind of bar? But just for the purposes of this, did we improve here? The answer is yes, definitely. We only allowed 165 total passing yards, granted to backup quarterbacks. That does need to be said, right? It's not
Yeah.
rising. However, only 32 of it went to tight ends. That's 19.4%. So that was an Achilles heel for us all last year, not just the Utah game, right? So this is a big one. This is a huge point. That's a lot better. Now, again, it doesn't mean we're out of the woods, right? I'm not saying that I definitely saw some holes in coverage there, but I really liked the improvement overall, holistically, that we saw for the game.
Hmm.
Now, of course, Kuthi didn't play, so that has to go into this, right? Um, the other point that I was going to make is that we didn't have any sacks last year. And unfortunately, we didn't have any sacks this year. So that one I can't really say we improved upon. I'm actually really surprised that we didn't get a sack. We got several hurries that I thought were going to be pretty close to sacks and did alter some throws. But again, there were times where Bryson back there really did a good job and found the appropriate receiver against the blitz and burned us with it many times, really, at least 3 or 4 that I can think of off the top of my head. So
Hmm.
again, that's got to improve. But overall, I'm pleased with the defense. I think there's a lot of potential there. Man, did we play a lot of young guys. James Jackson saw the field. Jordan Castell
Yeah.
started, by the way. 2 freshman starters in this game from my keep it or pitch it from the beginning of the season. Watch out, you're gonna owe me $20.
Ayo. Okay. Keep tracking.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not gonna put the cart before the horse, but it looks pretty good to start getting 2 in the first game. But we'll see what happens. And Castell looked pretty good. He didn't look great, but he looked pretty good. He actually
Yeah.
graded out as our 3rd best defender on Pro Football Focus. A little fun stat, which I thought was pretty
Wow.
impressive. But at any rate, uh, overall, I think I'm definitely seeing an improvement with the defense. Thank goodness. It's about freaking time. Man, this has been long overdue. But I'm happy to say that I can confidently say that I saw some things that were a lot better. Are there still things that need to get improved upon? Absolutely. But
Hmm.
there's progress there, and that's really, really good. So with that, let's get to the segment that I think we're both kind of looking forward to in this one, because we get to throw out our complaints, right? Let's go into some visor throw, and talk about this. So why don't you open it up for us? What you got for your for what's grinding your gears today?
Yeah, you got to be. You got it. All right. Oh man. Overall, yeah, good last segment. Good job talking about what Utah did last year compared to this year. Obviously, the sacks are what it was, but definitely throwing over the middle, the tight ends. Yeah, definitely. We got improvement there. So at least take small baby steps or victories, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. Okay. Visor throw number 1. What you mentioned, 0 sacks. 0 sacks. That's all I'm saying. Visor
Mhm.
throw. I feel like I'm going to be like Coach Spurrier here, and we're playing FSU. We're going to have a lot of visor throws. Um, so 0 sacks by the defense. Second visor throw. Red zone opportunities. And I'm sure this is one of yours, but 4
Yep.
opportunities in the red zone for 10 points. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think that huge opportunity missed, right? Okay. Another visor throw, number 3 for me. Now my visor's getting kind of semi-dirty. I've got the clean white Jumpman logo, gator head in the middle. Getting a little dirty now. Visor throw number 3. Same jersey number equipment infraction. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I've never seen that called before in my life. Never. Never. I, I okay. Okay. Visor throw number 4. 9 flags for 46 yards. Specifically, 3 flags on 3rd and 1 that end up shooting ourselves in the proverbial foot. So it's like, oh my word, you got to be kidding me. Okay. All right. Visor throw number 5. First time. First time Florida. I'm not sure if you saw this. First time Florida's lost 4 in a row since 2017, dating back to last year. Vandy, FSU, Oregon State, yes, the bowl game. Now Utah. I'm not going to
Wow.
say five. I'm
I
not
had
going to say
not
five.
seen that.
Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about 5. Okay, I know McNeese is from Louisiana, but they're not that good. All right.
No, they are not.
Visor throw. Yeah, exactly. Visor throw number 6 for me. 13. Oh my gosh, 13 rushing yards. We have a
Yeah.
two-headed monster back there, and we have 13 rushing yards to show for it. Okay. And the other thing is, when you look at our total yardage, 346 yards, if we just get 54 more rushing yards, we're at 400 for the game. To average 400 plus yards a game throughout a season, um, that's pretty good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you're going to win more than you're going to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then my last visor throw, I'm going to save some for you, B. But my last visor
Oh, you're
throw,
good.
I did not realize how much that running. So we have a new rule in college football regarding the clock and
Mm-hmm.
first down. So remember, if everyone remembers, first down, clock stops, you move the chain, the white cap will signal, okay, the chain's been moved, the ball is set, run the clock again. Well, guess what? That clock does not stop until there's 2 minutes or less left to go in the quarter. And holy smokes, I'm not saying that we could have come all the way back, but it just seemed like we had lack of urgency when it came to realizing the clock and then the play calling options that came with that. So that's my last visor throw. My visor was nice and shiny. It's dirty. It's muddy. I don't even think Tide's going to get it clean. Might need some Oxy Boost. I don't know. But there you go, B. What you got?
So I'm gonna get on my first of all, spot on all the way across. I'm gonna get on my soapbox here.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be a team that is focused, right? One of Napier's main things when he came here was to focus on improving the discipline and cleaning up unforced errors that resulted in, penalties that are of that kind. Now, gameplay penalties are one thing, right? Somebody grabs a face mask because they're trying to make a tackle. It happens, right? It's football.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what happened in this game. My first one is penalties, penalties, penalties. Not
Mm-hmm.
only were there too many, but man, did they come at a terrible time repeatedly. I already mentioned the 3 third downs that were not
Mm-hmm.
converted because of penalty. We also had the 4th down that was not converted that then resulted in a missed field goal, which I'm pretty sure 4th and 1. I like our chances on 4th and 1. I feel like that offense is built to do that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So you could theoretically throw that one in there too. So let me throw out some thoughts for you here. So for everybody that's saying, oh well, it doesn't matter, right? The game wasn't close. Who cares? Think about this. If we had not given up the double number penalty and actually gotten the ball there and it not led to the touchdown, right? Regardless of what happens, right? But it doesn't lead to the touchdown. Now they're at 17. Now let's go to our side of the ball and say we just convert that 4th and 1. Let's
Mm.
erase 2 penalties from this game. Just 2 is all I'm going to erase. And that turns either into a touchdown or a made field goal. Now it's either
Wow.
17-17 or 17-14 final. Now, obviously, 17-17 goes to OT. But my point is, 2 penalties, and you have a minimum of a 10-point swing off them. Absolute minimum, and possibly a 14-point swing, depending on what
Mm-hmm.
goes on. I won't give us automatic credit that we would have scored a touchdown because my next visor throw is going to be our red zone play calling and execution. But just think about that. This is a totally different football game with just 2 particular less penalties. And both of them were totally unforced errors. And one of them was on the coaches 100%. So that brings me to the next point, which is going to have to do a lot about coaching and more particular Napier as an offensive coordinator. This experiment is running out of legs for me real quick.
Mm.
I will say on a positive note before I get into all the negatives that I have. The one positive I have, I mentioned earlier. The run wasn't working. He didn't lean into it. He threw the ball a lot, right? A lot. And
Mm-hmm.
despite our route combinations and personnel groupings and everything else that is substandard in a lot of cases, in my opinion, I shouldn't say substandard. That's not fair. It's just not advanced enough for the modern game. It's just too basic. That's really what it comes down to. And it could be better pretty easily too. It just needs a little tweaking. The personnel grouping really isn't the problem there. It's just a question of what we do with the receivers that are running routes when we have 2 tight ends, right? What are the tight ends doing? What are the receivers doing? They're not running route combinations that make sense and help open up things for the quarterback. But having said all of that, we leaned into the
Mm-hmm.
pass, threw the ball 44 times, right? That's a lot. And really, we
Oh
tried to
yeah.
throw the ball 49 times because he got sacked 5 times, right? So really, there's really 49 times we went back to pass out of, I believe we calculated it to be 62 total plays, right? Is what we were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Right.
this is, that's not a bad thing in terms of trying to, take what the defense gives you. I like that. But that's about all I like. The play calling was not good. To your point, really good point. I don't have this, but you're 100% right. Total lack of urgency. Total
Mm-hmm.
lack of urgency. That especially in the second half when we were down. Now the team did not quit, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I really do not understand, and frankly, they're just bad game management decisions by Napier time and time again. He showed it over and over again in late in the first half last year, and often late in game situations. He
Mm-hmm.
is not good at it from a play calling standpoint. He does not necessarily motivate the team the right way to get, up and moving, or he's just got them in the wrong segment of offense, right? He's got them in more of a 4-minute offense than a 2-minute offense. He just does, most of the time. And it's like, where is the urgency? You've got to move the ball. And especially to your point with this running clock, if you get behind, you've got to catch up quick because you don't have the time. So again, it's really an issue. The other thing that is a problem is I saw way too much 12 personnel in the red zone again. Now we're moving the ball with a lot of 11 personnel. We get in the red zone, we switch to 12, we start running plays that like the shovel pass to Dante Sanders. What was
Oh.
that? That was gross, right? I don't think Aaron Hernandez could have hit that hole. And I'm not trying to bring
Oh.
up an ugly name, but at the end of the day, right? That guy was as good as we've ever seen at tight end at floor. Well, Pitts maybe you could argue, but for plays like
Mm-hmm.
that would have been a bread and butter for him, and I don't think he could have executed on that play. Right? It was just a bad play call. It was not wise considering the circumstance, being 4th and 3. Right? You're trying to get tricky. You're trying to get cute on 4th and 3. No, line up and smash it. Let's go. Like that's what that play call calls for, and it's something that this offense is built on. Why are you doing trickeration, right? What's the idea here? And he just seems to just get bottled up in the red zone. The play calling gets way more conservative. We bring everybody in, right? We do the 12 personnel all the time. Now, it wasn't every play. But it was about 50% of the plays in the red zone were 12 personnel. And unless you're on the, near the goal line and trying to run it down their throat, which we weren't and didn't, then what are you doing? Call the plays that were working to get you there, or at least the play structure that was moving the ball down the field, which we actually did pretty well, by the way. Like, yeah, we had a couple of 3-and-outs to start the game that were not good. And then after that, we moved the ball fairly well for most of the game. We just shot ourselves in the foot again with those penalties. And then my other visor throw goes back to the blown coverages by the back seven, whether it was that first play, right, or
Mm,
all the stuff over the middle that was just wide open at times. Again, I mentioned earlier, Perkins lost on a couple plays, let a guy go right by him, totally missed assignment, total blown coverage. Guy was wide open out on the sideline, running off a little wheel from the slot. It was not good. It was not good. And uh, those are the things that I think we got to clean up. But the thing is, I think we can clean them up. I think most of what was lacking in this game, and this is the theme that I really took away. So, despite all that negative stuff I just said, the theme
mhm,
that I will take away here is 95% of it is probably correctable. It's the O line that scares me because I don't know if that's going to
mhm.
get significantly better when Kingsley comes back or as this season goes along or not. And if it doesn't, buddy, we're in for a long year. You said it. SEC's played in the trenches. This is not going to be pretty if that's the case. So
Mhm.
that's actually all I got as far as points. I know I made them a lot more in depth than you. I liked your approach there. I may uh, take that on. I really like that. Just kind of a here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, right? Just throwing them out. Mine obviously I had a lot more that as far as detail goes, but yeah, that's all I got. Anything else you wanna chuck in on visor throw?
No, that's it. I had to do it that way. I had to do the bullet point. It's almost like, you're going through an email and we all have limited time and I'm going through an email and I hate reading paragraphs. I rather bullet points. I had
Yep.
to put it in bullet point format. If not, this segment would have been an hour and a half for me. So I tried to spare the listeners as much as possible.
Man, I hear you. We could have spent the entire pod on this segment. Really, such a game of frustration. I think when we talked, right after the game, and I
Yeah.
said to you that if the first half had have been the story of the whole game, right, I would have called this a comedy of errors. Because I mean, what wasn't going wrong? I mean, Wolf, man. Uh, but I am happy we got better in the second half. So with that point, moving on to recruiting, I don't have any news of any commits. I don't believe there have been any new ones. But I am curious. What are your thoughts on if we continue to look subpar here and what it does to that potentially really nice 24 class we got brewing?
Yeah. All I'm saying is DJ Lagway. No, I'm kidding. No, we really do. But I tell you what, right now the whole it probably isn't a whole lot brewing. But what was interesting to me in this game is I didn't quite look at it that way as far as what you mentioned about the running game, right? Not necessarily abandon it, but you just asked. Now I get it. He started for Wisconsin for years. It's not his first rodeo. He's been there. He's done that. He's gotten the T-shirt. But his first big SEC start, right, for the Gators. It's not like he's playing at Vanderbilt. No disrespect to the Harvard of South is or whatever they call themselves there.
Yeah, I think that's it.
But is it right? So, but that's the thing, right? Mertz threw 44 times, minus the sacks, minus whatever he's going to do. He threw almost 50 times and he irked out 70%. The interesting thing to me about that also was the fact of Jonathan Odom. Really happy to see him come back from the knee injury. Now, he looks slower than my grandmother's molasses, but either way, he caught the football. He
Yeah,
caught
he
the
did.
football.
Yeah, he
So,
did. Nice hands
really
on a
good.
couple catches too.
Right? Really good to see him catch the football. Marcus Burke, really good to see him catch the football. Right? That was really good. Khalil Jackson, right? His father, his uncle played here. That's, another second generation Gator, whatever you want to call it. Really good to see him. Hayden Hansen. There was a Hayden Hansen sighting. Like, who is he? Right? But again, caught the football, short gain, 4 or 5 yards, but caught the football, good focus and attention in catching it. Tony Livingston, are you serious?
Yep.
Another catch for 4 yards. So,
Another
anyways,
starting freshman.
right, right. Dude, this guy just wants $20 from me, Gator Nation. He just wants $20, to prove a point. But having that been said, when I see and then Trayon Webb comes in, he gets a run, he gets 3, 4 yards, but at the end of the day, and I agree with you, Eugene Wilson, man, You say Percy like, right? Minus 2 inches and about 20, 30 pounds.
Well,
But
sure, sure. Hey, he's a freshman. Give him time.
fair, fair, but outside of that, I see what you mean about the electricity. I think when I saw him take the ball and juke and turn, it was almost like a Kadarius Toney, but less juking and more control and more quickness. Because there's a difference between speed and quickness. I think Wilson has the ability to do both. Right, he can be quick when he needs to maneuver, and then burst out in speed when he needs to sprint down the field. So for as far as that goes, that's exciting. Some of the young guys that we have on defense, that's exciting. So
Hmm.
either way, I'm just happy to see all this come together because again, really and truly, their first raw game together. And then when you look at the personnel in general, especially on the O line, we know we talked about this. We can go talk about it more and more. Gawkin being out, but just even on 11 people on 11 personnel on defense, and when you look at only 3 of them returning and not really in one in a starting capacity. And you look at that, you're like, wow, okay. So if these guys play more together, the more practice, the more game time scenarios, the more opportunity to gel and congeal, whatever you want to
Yep.
call it. I again, honest opinion, like you asked me, what do you think about the defense? More excited for it this year than in years past. I'll end it on that, and it's because of those hatchlings, but also looking forward to see how they're going to cultivate and grow and get better and better in preparation for 24, which is Mr. Napier's third year, in which the buyout option drops from 31 million maybe down to 26 million. I don't know. We'll see.
Which, yeah, yeah. There's been a lot of talk about that. I'm not ready to go there yet, but I'll tell you, I'm opening the door, which I was not last year, right? That everybody that was, premature at the end of the way the season ended and everything else. You got to give him some time, right? You got to
Yeah.
give him some time. You got to let his stuff get in. However, some of his stuff is in, and it's not good, and that's a problem. So that's going to have to be corrected. But you got you got the opportunity to do that. I think still. Um, I think Napier should get one more year, almost regardless. I mean, maybe I change my tune on that depending on what happens throughout this season. If it really don't see some improvements on some of the stuff that we talked about, especially just the silly discipline things. But but anyway, I really liked your take there from a hatchling standpoint, and in looking at recruits we already have brought in, right, the young guys or the transfer
Yeah.
portal guys. That's I really like that. I was always thinking of this as far as a just an update on the new class. But I really like that's a really great way to make those points. That's awesome. Thanks for that take. So let's
You
move
got it.
on. Sorry, let's move on. Pride of the sunshine here. So let's talk a little about culture, right? So
Hmm.
so culture is an interesting thing here. Always an interesting thing I think to look at culture in a loss. Also, after a loss, let's see how they bounce back. But I will say, I don't. This one isn't necessarily all culture, but the entire team, you know, as I mentioned before, was out of sync at least for the first half, but it did get better and things did improve. So what I like there is that we made some adjustments that the team didn't fall apart because they looked and were not playing well right to start off the game, but it didn't shake us, right? It didn't cause us to just lose it and be like, well, this is over, right? And throw in the hat. And then obviously, which the one thing I will give Napier team since he's been here, man, they have no quit. These players do not stop playing until that final whistle. They are going till they can't go anymore. I have been very impressed with that from a culture standpoint since he's gotten here. And I will say that
Hmm.
I think he's really doing a good job in that regard. Now he's got to do a better job in getting, some of the silly stuff cleaned up, right? One of the things that he said he was focusing on when he came here was
Hmm.
cleaning up on discipline errors. I already said it, but man, so frustrating. So frustrating how much we cost ourselves. Um, despite actually not playing that bad of a game. I know that sounds crazy to say considering the score, but if you really go back and watch it and just take your emotion out of it, right? Take the sadness and the sorrow of the way this game ended up as a Gator fan, and you just go back and you just look at the plays. A lot of the plays were actually pretty good. It's just the wrong things happened at the wrong time, and we made the wrong mistakes when we couldn't afford to make them.
Oof.
And we did it over and over and over again. It wasn't like we did it once or twice. No, it was like 10 times that we just, boom, either got a terrible penalty we couldn't afford, or just didn't execute right on the play, or it was a poor play call at times, right? And that's going to happen here and there, but I really feel like all of those things combined, one, happened more than they should have, and two, were again really ill-timed, as I mentioned earlier. So what do you got? What are your thoughts on where we were at from a culture standpoint for what you were viewing from the players out there?
For sure. I'm gonna echo that, B. I think you hit some really good points there. Got some good nail on the head there. Wrong mistakes, wrong time. Hopefully, that is not a theme that we see coming through the season. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. No quit. That's actually what was one of my points under Pride of the Sunshine,
Yep.
because and for people who say, "How could you say that?" Look at the score again. This is one of those games where the score is not indicative of the game in its entirety. I'm sorry, it's not. When you look at the yards gained in each quarter, when you look at the scoring opportunities, when you look at the first half to the second half, I I wholeheartedly will say 1000%. You take away two penalties and you add 40, 50 more rushing yards. You take away a sack, we win this game.
Take away a pick, we definitely win it.
Bingo, we win this game. That's it.
Along
So
along with what else you said, right? This wasn't just the
sure,
pick, but
no, no, no.
15 yards to score a touchdown right there. That drive just ends in a punt, and you're fine. They don't
Yeah,
score. We were shutting them down. They weren't getting anything in the second half. I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm right there with you. Sorry, continue.
yeah. No, you're good, B. It was a gimme. That was a gimme. The first 70-yard bomb, that was like a gimme.
Yep.
And we made these young QBs, feel themselves. Which,
Mm-hmm.
oh boy, I tell you what, one of the things that I was going to mention in visor throw, I said, what, I'll leave it there. But I really want that defense to come out and just be nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily saying Major Wright saying he wants to hurt somebody, like wants to put fear into somebody, because we don't condone violence on my two bits, people. Just putting that out there. But at the end of the day, um, I want some of these people to seek and destroy. Anyways, Graham Mertz. Graham, a lot was asked of you in your first big game as a Gator. And I'll tell you what, the one thing that was neat to me was on a couple of those third down misses, on a couple of penalties. I'm not sure if you noticed this, B, but he clapped his hands. He went around going to the TV timeout, whatever, and smacking that O line. He was just giving them high fives. He was clapping. He was jabbering. He was calling. He was this. He was that. He had to have been exhausted after this game,
Mm-hmm.
running for his life aside. He had to have been exhausted, because when you look at what he did and the different things he was able to do, the command that he had, folks, I don't think it's a fluke that he threw 70% for 330 plus. I don't think that's a fluke. So Mertz for me was a big part of the sunshine moment.
I like
Double
it.
A, right? Double A. You know what? I think the batteries, maybe they were on the charger long enough. I don't know what it was, but I still feel like he was talking to his guys. I still feel like he had that energy on the sideline. He was
For
channeling
sure.
his inner Spurrier, right? He had the visor. I get it. Cool. Um, but for me, I would thought there would be a little bit more energy coming out of him. I know that first play just was a massive punch to the gut.
Yep. Yep.
But outside of that, I felt for what it was and the things that we tried to do and or could do, and some of the debilitating things, the quote unquote, you know, shooting ourselves in the foot. I felt like it was tough to rebound after some of those things, because it was almost like one step forward, two back, three back. But again, I agree with you in the fact that we did not quit, because in that second half, namely the beginning of that fourth quarter, I feel like if we had a couple of things go differently, especially when it looking at that clock and what happened midway through that fourth, man, you get us another conversion and another great opportunity in the red zone, different outcome.
Yeah, and
So that's
one
my
of those
pride.
one of those third down penalties we talked about was in the fourth quarter. Eugene Wilson uh,
Right.
caught a nice pass and went for a first down, and that's when George got the holding call, and it got called back, and that was we would have converted and been either in or right at the red zone.
Big game.
Um,
Hmm.
Huge deal, huge deal. So
Huge.
it hurts. It hurts for sure. All right, so we'll move it on. I think for me, this next one's going to be very short. This is going to be our officiating segment, our move back, you suck, and it was an SEC crew. By the way, I had to do a ton of research to figure out that it was an SEC crew. That was a hard thing to find out. I spent like 15 minutes earlier Googling trying to figure out who called the game. It was almost impossible to find. I must have looked at like 15 different pages. It was ridiculous, man. Anyway, it was an SEC crew. I was able to establish, um,
At
and
least.
I thought they were pretty solid, man. I really didn't have a lot of beef. We had the no call on the PI on Ricky down the field, but debatably we had one earlier in the game that was actually probably a little worse that we didn't get called for against I think one of their linebackers. I can't remember if it was a safety or a linebacker that was on. It was one of their tight ends, excuse me, that we didn't get called on because we kind of turned him a little bit. But the
Yeah.
one on Ricky, we talked about this already. DBs are coached to do what he did, right? Grab that inside arm where the ref can't see it. It
Yep.
happens. I mean, I don't love it, but it is what it is. I'm not going to complain about that. It's one that almost never gets called, if ever, unless it's just really obvious that it held him up. Um, so overall, I thought they were pretty good. My only questionable call of the game for me um, is where Ricky caught that ball on 4th and 2 because I don't think he caught it. I think it hit the ground. So the only call I'm going to question was in our favor. So there you go. Right? Don't call me unbiased, okay? Or don't call me
Hmm.
biased. Excuse me. No, I'm
Bias. Yeah.
just kidding. I'm sure I'm biased, but I do try to be objective when it comes to the officials. I know you do as well, obviously, with it being for those of you who this is the first time maybe you're listening. Randy does high school football officiating, has for a few years now, so he's our resident expert on officiating here. So I'm going to actually turn it over now to you and say, what do you got as far as your thoughts on the officials of the day?
Yeah, man. SEC officials are like the stock market. It's up, down, left, right. It's never. It's like, hey, I'm gonna wait. And when the market's settled, when it's steady, when is that? On the weekends. So it's really tough. Now, having that been said, fairly decent game. I wish that the back judge. I wish he had really bad vision and didn't see two number threes on the field, but he saw it.
They were
Right,
almost
fine.
next to one another, man. Did you see the replay? They were like 10 yards apart.
It could have been 33, could have been blurred. Um, so there was that. Um, I agree, man. I feel like that missed PI. I feel like the angle was bad. I feel like he should have been 10 more yards downfield. I know that feeling. I know that feeling not being a place that you should be. And they're like, holy smokes, I could have gotten a better look at that, but I wasn't there. So you can't make a call on it, right?
Yep.
So it is what it is, right? If that tree falls in the woods, anybody hear it? Yeah. Yes, no, maybe so. Um,
I've always said yes to that question, but
okay.
that's just my take. But no,
Must be a
I
good
go
must be
ahead.
the
What?
elevation. Must be the good elevation, the good echo,
Right? Right?
And
But no, I
then
I hear you on that. I thought they were pretty good too. Sorry, you had something else?
no, and then outside of that, I felt like typically you don't get a call, and we got a call, and that was the Pearsall catch. Because when you look at the way I see what he was trying to do, he was trying to cradle and clamp the ball, and for all intents and purposes, he's did it. But I don't think he expected that last move out of the ball where it actually touched the turf, and that
Yeah,
was
he
what it was.
almost
I
he almost
was,
caught that one-handed.
yeah, yeah, really expecting that to come back, but no, complete. And I just had to kind of scratch my head and go, wow, we actually got one of those calls for once. So, anyways, that's it for Move Back You Suck. Overall, nothing too terrible.
No, not at all. And I feel certain this is a segment that may end up like the visor throw segment at some points this year, but I'm glad to say that
Yeah.
it wasn't. I always appreciate a well officiated game. I don't envy the refs. I know it's not easy, but there are times where I just don't understand what game they're watching. But I'm glad that wasn't this one. So, because that would have made this even worse. But moving right along. So with that, we'll kind of wrap here. So let's talk first, just real quick about where you're where you're at with the state of the team going forward, right? We talked about where we think they are after the game. Let's talk about where we can go from here. So, what do you think about where the team's at as a whole, and again, more so where they're going to go?
Nowhere to hope for but up, right? Um, I feel like so again, we got a cupcake coming up this week, right? In McNeese.
Yep.
I don't foresee, Billy, are you listening? I do not foresee two games back to back in which we lack discipline. Hopefully it was just one of those things where, hey, crowd noise and environment and whatever, everything else, right? And I know we're supposed to come out ready for that because I tell you what, last year with Billy at the helm, first game in the swamp, AR and everything else, they prepared well to the tune of a win, right? And I can think last year Utah was number 7, so that was even bigger upset than
Yeah,
anyone could even.
and a disciplined win too. Not a lot of penalties in that game. I don't recall the number, but I want to say it was 3 or 4 for, like, 30, 40 yards, something in that neighborhood. It was not bad. It was clean. It was clean. In fact, the thing with the penalties got worse as the year went along. So, actually, really good point there that he
Bingo.
did show he's capable of that, at least, you know, getting the players to execute there at some point. So anyway, continue.
He is. You took the words right out of my mouth. It was very disciplined. He had actually a really, really good overall scheme coming in, right? To get him some easy throws, to get some looks, to get in rhythm, to get that tempo going, to the change of pace with the running back game. That was great. So my thing is moving forward. Okay, that game's out from under your belt. Utah, big game. You got a gauntlet coming up here after McNeese, right? So based off of that, what is Billy doing differently to prepare? I get he's all about his process, and that's fine. But with the things, it's like the old Celine Dion song, right? There are flashes of light, there's flashes of brilliance. So hopefully it's all coming back to him, right? His second year at Louisiana State. So having that been said, nowhere but up. A lot of upside potential. Graham Mertz, I hope, I feel is the game manager, the field general that we need. We have more weapons than I thought we did. If Burke is capable of catching the ball the way he
Yep.
did,
Yep.
Wilson is going to
Yep.
be a talent. We
Yep.
know the running back situation. We actually have tight ends. We have more tight ends than I thought we had, right? So we have weapons. We have weapons. We have schemes. Now it's just a matter of how do we utilize them as effectively and efficiently as possible, and how does Napier work on that play calling to get it in a better rhythm and tone with the drive and what we're trying to do. Outside of that, nowhere but up rest of the season. If that's what you're getting at, nowhere but up.
No, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, and that is what I'm getting at is where we think we're going from here, despite this outcome. And I'm cautiously with you, cautiously because I'm worried that some of this stuff that is correctable doesn't get corrected. It absolutely should, right? There's no reason that it shouldn't. But my concern is what happens. So again, I think I said this before. When you go back and you watch this game without emotion, right?
Yeah.
We really didn't look bad. We didn't look from an execution standpoint, especially in the second half. We did not look bad. Now, holistically, right? There's things that are issues there. The penalties, of course, we mentioned that to ad nauseum, but it's just it bears saying again, right? The discipline has got to get better. I think it can, but will it? Right? This is the question mark, right? Because this team does not have the luxury of making those kind of mistakes. We do not
Mhm.
have enough talent. We do not have enough of the right pieces in the right places yet being the key word there, to be able to get away with making mistakes like that. Now, the best teams, the best of the best teams, don't do that, right? We know that. However,
Mhm.
their teams on the, I'll call it the upper echelon, right? They're not the top tier, but they're maybe that next tier below. They can get away with a lot of that. We're not in that tier. We're just not. The talent is not there yet. It's been too, the cabinet is too bare from when Mullen was here and not recruiting the way that he needed to, right? And that's really put us in a situation where we have to play pretty mistake free. And I don't mean mistake like you can never make a mistake. I mean mistake free like you can't have self-inflicted wounds, right?
Bingo.
Mistakes are going to happen. It's a game. There's a bunch of players out there doing their thing, right? You're not going to play perfect football. It's not going to happen. But can we clean it up enough that the self-inflicted wounds are minimized almost close to entirely, really? Because I mean, they're gonna be a couple. We know that's a given, but there really shouldn't be any more than that. And if there are more than that, I think you're going to have more results like you had on Thursday night. And I'm sorry to say that. I did not anticipate that. I think that should be said. And one thing we didn't really talk about, we did not foresee this. You had it as a close loss, I believe. I had it as a close win. It was neither.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody saw that coming, right? And the cause was, like we just talked about, a lot of that. So does it get cleaned up? Do we improve? If we do, then yes, I agree with you. But to me, that's an if that's got to get addressed before I'm going to say that we're, going to get better, quote unquote. That's the piece of it that I would put it at. So having said that, let's look forward to next week and let's play a little keep it or pitch it for McNeese. All right. So as we mentioned, what we're going to do with this segment now is
Yeah.
we're going to uh, play a little game of are we keeping the ball or are we pitching it off to the back, right? A little option play, right? And we're going to do that for a couple of points that we've kind of looked at for McNeese. Got some stats here that we're going to talk about, and we're going to kind of give you a little, not necessarily a hot take, but just a maybe a little aggressive on the predictions one way or the other for what Florida is going to do. So let's start it off. McNeese ranked 11th in the FCS in rushing last year with an average of just over 200 yards. Now that's in the FCS. Let's mind you, right? This is Division Two for those who aren't familiar with the FCS versus FBS divisions. Division Two ball, right? So they average just over 200 on the ground. We will hold them to under 125 yards next week. Keep it or pitch it.
Yeah. 125. As much as I want to say pitch it, I'm going to say keep it. Here's why.
Little faith in that defense.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Because of the personnel, because of their tenure, yeah, I get it. They're on the road, Utah, that crowd, fine. But now you're in the swamp, okay? It's still warm. I think they're going to have a jittery game. I want them to come out just smashing, playing free, playing discipline, this, that, and the other. But I feel like they're going to be so amped to play in the swamp, home crowd, fans going nuts, the volume, the new LED lights. It's going to be a night game, right? You're going to be waiting all day for it. I feel like I'm going to see a lot of overshooting. I feel like we're going to see a lot of missing. I
Bad
feel like we're going to see a
angles.
lot of, right?
By the way,
I just,
sorry,
yeah.
quick point. We only missed 3 tackles in that Utah game.
What?
We only missed 3 tackles. I forgot to mention that stat. I heard it the other day or read it the other day. We only missed 3 tackles that entire game. That's actually
That's
super
unreal.
impressive. I know Armstrong's been doing a lot of stuff for tackle drills. Man, apparently that's working. That's impressive. Continue. Sorry.
No, man, where the heck did you dig that up at?
I
That is
just saw it. I read
phenomenal.
everything.
That's good. That's good. That's great. That's great. But no, I just feel like we're going to be so amped for this. And it's almost like when you've got all this energy pent up, right? And you're just zipping, bam, and boom, like a, pinball machine. You know what? I just hope that they can simmer back down and go there. Having that been said, over on yardage, over on 125, I would say if we can hold them, my number is 133. 133 yards. McNeese is going to rush the ball for. That's it.
Just over. Now you said keep it, but that was keeping it for under 125. So really, you're pitching it then.
Oh, sorry. Yes. That's the
Okay.
only pick.
All right. All right. No worries. No worries. Okay. I'm keeping it. I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to say we stay under because of that stat that I just gave you. 3 missed tackles against Utah. I hope we have none against McNeese, though that's unlikely to have 0.
Yeah.
But also because this is an FCS team, right? So I know it's what they do well, but the talent gap here is extraordinary, right? I think the FPI has us winning this game 96% or something like that. I mean, now it may have changed after last week, but before the season, we were way up there to win this game. I mean, it was super high numbers. Basically, we're not losing type of thing,
Yeah.
and it's because of the talent gap. I mean, the talent gap is just extraordinary here, right? They're just not playing the same level of football, right? So obviously, I think we're going to win the game. That goes without saying, but I think moreover, I think this could actually be a pretty dominant performance by the defense, and I really hope it is. We need a confidence builder, especially on defense going into Tennessee. So I think this is really important that they come out and they do show up. I hear you. Definitely could get overamped. I could definitely see what you're saying happen in the first quarter, right? They could just be too jacked up and not thinking straight and playing with raw adrenaline and emotion, and that doesn't work,
Yep.
right? You have to keep your head composed, right? But I
Yep.
think I think Double A gets them calmed down, and I think we're in a better position there to go forward and actually put in some pretty impressive numbers. I would love a touchdown free shutout. I'm not going to say they can't get a field goal, but I would love this team statistically on paper is not good at all. It was a struggle to find these stats, as you know, and
Yeah.
they're bad. So even for FCS, they're bad, right? So we definitely have the opportunity to really put up a impressive showing, really on both sides of the ball, but I think defensively as well. So moving on, let's take an offensive side. So if I didn't say it, I'm keeping that, but I think I did.
You
So
did.
McNeese ranked 102nd in red zone defense. Wonder where I'm going. In the FCS, allowing points 87% of opponents' drives in the red zone. 87%, almost 90% of the time. It was actually, I think, 86.8, but I rounded. Um,
Good job. Yeah.
however, the keep it or pitch it is going to go a little something like this. Florida will be below 85% in red zone efficiency, despite how poor the defense is. And this goes back to that issue of play calling that we've been talking about. So that's the
Yep.
take. Where are you at? Are you keeping it or pitching it? Are we staying below 85, or are we going above and you're gonna go that route? What you got?
I look at it this way, as my good friend Forrest Gump would say, I'm not a very smart man, but I know what percentages are. So let's just say, looking at the Utah game, how many times do we get in the red zone? 4 opportunities. We had 10 points. McNeese is not that great. FCS. On that basis, I'm going to say we get into the red zone 8 times. If we score in the red zone 6 out of the 8 times, that's 75%. On that basis, if we score in the red zone 7 out of 8 times, that's 88%. I don't think
Hmm?
we can do it. I really don't.
Hmm?
I think we
I'm
will
with you.
be below 85% in red zone efficiency. I really do. I think if we can get 8 times, 8 appearances in the red zone, I think we're gonna score five out of the 8, maybe 6 out of the 8.
God, I hope it's at least 6 out of 8. Because I mean, field goals count, right? So I hope it's at least 6 out of the 8. But who knows? Maybe Mahalik's going to miss another 30-yarder. My God, we need a new kicker, man. Jeez. Anyway, I'm with
Oy.
you. I'm going to agree with you here. So it's funny, we often disagree in this game, but I'm going to
Yeah,
agree
right?
with you. I'm keeping this as well.
Okay, okay.
I don't think we can do it. I think our play calling, as we have discussed, is too poor there. Now maybe it doesn't matter and we just dominate this team so bad physically that it doesn't matter that we don't have good play calling. Maybe this is the kind of game where Napier's stuff is going to work to a perfect T. I don't know. But I'm going to say that it doesn't. I'm going to say that between execution, play calling, and I hope not penalties. I hope that is not the case. that we're not able to get to 85. I'm with you. I think 80, 75, 80 is probably realistic
Okay.
and better be realistic against this team. If it's lower than that, wolf. I mean, I know our red zone is not good. I'm going to start questioning if it's, really awful at that point. Like, I mean, is it completely terrible? Because that's what we'll have to start looking at. So we'll look at this next week on both these numbers, see how we fared. We'll do that in both the offense and defensive segments, and we'll go from there. So really enjoyed this. Really thought it was a good. Maybe a little therapeutic, to be able
Right.
to go through and talk about this. But really, I hope that we have given a take here, at least from my side, and I think we've been, more aligned than we sometimes are on a lot of this stuff. And I think the take here is that there are things that we can be hopeful about here. Now, there's some work that still has to be done. There's no question. There's some things that need to improve in order for that to happen. But there signs there that are not, again, as bad as things might seem, right, from all appearances. But frankly, more than anything, it's the coaching that has to get cleaned up here. But again,
Mm,
that's correctable. So any final thoughts from you on this?
man, and yeah, overall, man, great. Some great segments we had in there, and I like the back and forth. Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't agree or disagree on the keeping and pushing,
Yeah, we
especially on the
kind of
last
always
one,
do.
dude, right? But no, I think Gator Nation, everyone's frustrated, everyone's upset. I'll say this, me being a big faith guy, and I'm not going to introduce a lot of it here, but everyone saw Swamp Kings, right? Everyone
Yep.
saw Swamp Kings, the untold story. We didn't hear a lot of those untold stories. Those of us close in Gator Nation, we saw or heard and was there for some of those untold stories. Billy has cleaned up the program. He's cleaned up the program in a big, big way. When you look at off the field personnel, off the field issues, grades, everything from a whole. The program is
It's a
cleaner,
really good point.
right? The program is cleaner. The way in which kids are dealt with is cleaner. The way that the expectations are set to the kids, right, is much higher, believe it or not. Is not as much of the rah rah. And don't get me wrong, I love me some rah rah, and I love me some great motivation. And just like you, be probably watching Swamp King, sometimes you felt like you can run through that brick wall again just listening to Brandon Spikes talk, right?
Yeah.
Listening to Major Wright and those guys. But at the end of the day, is the program cleaner? Is it in a better place? And this is what's tough, because when you look at Napier right now, and you look at Urban's tenure, you look at um, Muschamp's tenure, McElwain's tenure, Mullen's tenure, all these guys, it took them, 6, 7, 8, 10 seasons, right? Spurrier took almost how many ever seasons to get to 8 losses? Billy, I hate to say this, Billy, you're already at 8 losses in less than 2 years.
Yeah.
So, having that been said, is culture working? I think so. Is the personnel working? I think so. I have faith on those two fronts. Now, as we know, football, especially the SEC, especially a Florida faithful, is results oriented, and we're not even close. So the
Yep.
only thing I can say is, Gator Nation, be patient, at least be patient for 11 more games, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Because I'm
Agreed.
telling you, competition this year is for Joe Milton in Tennessee. They look like a well-oiled machine. FSU, LSU the other night, big game for Jordan Travis and FSU. As much as I hate to say that, sorry, I got to go, scrub my tongue out with
Yeah,
soap.
but on
Um,
the flip side, LSU didn't look so hot. Just throwing
you're
that out there.
not going to disagree. Not going to disagree. Muffed Punt City, not DBU for sure. No.
No.
So, anyways, right now I'm so torn, because I want to see the program do well, and I want the personnel to be going well. I want these young men to hold themselves in a higher regard off the field and on the field, but at the same time, they need to still know they're playing for the University of Florida. All right, 3-time national championship, 3-time Heisman Trophy winners. There's a lot of prestige. There's a lot of cameras. There's a lot of hype with playing in the swamp, and they just for lack of a better term, they just need to get a live up to it. That's it.
No, I'm with you, man. I really like those points. Really good point about the overall discipline of the team, or whatever you want to call it, outside of football, right? Um,
Yeah.
we're hearing all these stories about Georgia. Yet another one today, by the way.
Oh
Don't know if you
yeah,
saw that.
I did.
And hey, I get it. I can't. I'm not disparaging Georgia for it, right? We were right there. God, goodness knows that we
No,
had our
no, no.
issues and then some, right? And then some, what Swamp Kings didn't tell, which, that's a whole nother story. Um,
It is.
but, you know, at the end of the day, um, I really think that, that can be an undermining force that can get not good things, right? And it kind of continued after Meyer, right? You had the whole Greer thing, you had the whole Callaway thing, the credit card scam, yada yada. You can just go on and on and on. We've had a lot of stuff that's been pretty negative outside of the football field with some of these players. And you're right, I haven't heard a peep, not a peep, since Napier's been there. And that does speak to his character and the character that he's trying to instill in these young men, which is absolutely something that I believe in, that I was kind of taught since I was young about the Florida way of doing things, right? That we do things with integrity, that we're not, this band of thugs. That's for the school up in Tallahassee. Sorry, but take it back to Peter
Right.
Work and some 5 finger discount at Macy's, right? So it
Oh
really
man.
it really does, reflect in the kind of players we have. Now, having said that, you called it. Nobody's going to give a hill of beans about it if we don't win. Now we start winning and we do that. Now you have a program, and that's, I think, a really important point, right? That takes time. It takes time on both sides of things. So love what you said. Got to give them another 11 games. Pump the brakes on the firing talk. Pump the brakes on the buyout talk. It's way too early for that. We don't have near enough still. We have one more game than we did 6 months ago, right? I mean, we just don't have enough. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, right? So, at any rate, um, I think we're in a good spot to go forward and at least have the potential to really come out and play the Gator way. I like the way you said that. That was really good. So with that, I think we'll wrap this up and give our little sign off. Um, so wherever you are and whenever you may be listening, thank you for taking the time, and we'll see you around, Gator Nation.